our legal analyst, the guy who knows more about this stuff than any human being on the planet, Roger Cossack, and he joins us now on the show. Roger, it's Michael and Ryan. How you doing?
Hey, guys. How are you? Happy holidays.
And the same to you, my friend. So what do you make of the Supreme Court, New York Supreme Court ruling that backs up the Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman, in not allowing DraftKings and FanDuel to operate in New York?
Well, guys, I think we talked about this when he refused to issue the injunction that they wanted a few weeks ago. It was sort of the tipping of the hand. I thought that this wasn't going to go very well for DraftKings and FanDuel. So I'm not surprised that this is what he has come down to. He obviously agreed with the Attorney General that this is gambling. You know, the interesting part about this, at least I found one of the interesting parts is, there was a discussion about FanDuel or DraftKings as a daily issue versus a season issue. And so one of the arguments that was made was that the Attorney General really wasn't sort of coming down and saying that the season issue was gambling. They were saying more that this daily playing was gambling. And of course, the FanDuel's people said, "Hey, it's the exact same thing. How can you differ between one or the other?" So apparently, the judge didn't buy that and said that the way it was working at least on the daily part of it, never really got around to this whole season part of it, but said the daily part of it was gambling and it violated the law.
Now, Roger, our very own Darren Ravel just tweeted out that DraftKings and FanDuel has gotten to stay so they can continue to operate. What's their next move? All right, so they get to stay. Are they taking this to the Supreme Court of the United States?
Well, the next move, of course, is that there's going to be a trial, and there'll be that helps them a great deal by getting rid of getting the stay overturned, because that means that they can operate until there's a trial, and there'll be a trial date set on this. I think there was some in the court's opinion today. He said the answer to the complaint had to be filed within 30 days. That may be up in the air now that the stay has been overturned. So there'll be a trial, and it'll be interesting. What I guess is I didn't know about that stay. I knew that they'd gone up for an appeal and tried to get that stay overturned. Yeah, it just happened right now. Yeah, but what's interesting to see is what the Attorney General does. There's other courts, and he may take it right up to a higher court than the state appellate court and go up to the state Supreme Court and see what happens. So, right for now, it was a good round. I guess this turned out to be a good round for the sports FanDuel and stuff. But we'll see what happens, whether or not that stay that was overturned in itself gets overturned.
Roger, this may seem like a naive question, but I feel like we get so far down the road on these things that sometimes, we end up just not understanding the initial motivation. So if you're looking at the individual states, in this case, New York, right?
Right.
Why are they so motivated to pursue this the way that they are?
Well, okay, so what you're asking me is, how do I get myself into the head of the Attorney General of the state of New York? And I suppose the answer is, the only answer I can give you is, look, he is the chief legal officer of the state of New York. It's his job to enforce the laws. If he believes, and he does, that this violates the law of the state of New York, then it's his job to go ahead and stop it. Just like he would have an obligation to stop anything else that he thought violated the law of the state of New York.
I'll tell you, here's the one thing that gets me, though, Roger. I don't see them winning if their argument is this is not gambling. It is gambling. There's an entry fee, which you could look at as a bet.
Right.
There's skill involved, yes, but there's also luck involved in every single one of these games. So if they're going to argue that this is not gambling, they're going to lose. It is gambling.
And you're right. And by the way, that was an issue in this, the question of whether or not the quote-unquote entry fee was a wager. And, some tried to argue, the Daily Fan people argued that, well, look, it's an entry fee, it's not a wager. But, it is a wager. And, of course, it's a wager. And is it gambling? Yeah. But, a whole lot of things are gambling.
Right. The lottery's a gamble.
Yeah, the lottery's a gamble. Of course, the state makes a lot of money off of that. So, it's hard to come down. I think it's pretty clear, at least in my opinion, that it's gambling. Yes, I think there's some skill involved, or perhaps a lot of skill involved. But at the end of the day, there are things that you just can't control. Now, you have the same argument in all games of chance. What about poker? Is poker a game of skill or a game of chance?
Both.
Well, I think it's both. And in some places poker is legal, and some places poker isn't.